we have ETFs, dividend stocks, and real estate. But because we're about to retire in 2024, we're thinking of maybe starting to add some income positions. Stick around. Today we're going to see what some of those might be and how they'll help us down the road.
We consider ourselves hybrid investors. We do have investments on ETFs, on real estate, and also dividend-paying stocks. After what happened last week, and if you have not watched the previous video, I'm going to link up here on our big revelation, more and more, or big reveal, I don't know, more and more we need to be mindful on where we do invest our money. And this is what we wanted to talk to you today. My name is Jean.
I'm Christine.
We do live in Canada, and our financial independence date is going to be in 2024. As you can see, we are not far away from that date, and as a result, we started thinking about what are some of the ways that we can have to protect our money, but at the same time help us to achieve the amount, the minimum amount that we are looking for in terms of monthly income. That's what we wanted to discuss with you today. One of the things that I wanted to keep in mind is, as always, we are not financial advisors and you need to do your own research. We can take a look and see what we are saying, but at the end of the day, it's your money. You are working hard to make that money, go a long way. So please do your own research.
So our current situation, like we say, we're hybrid investors. So currently we hold ETFs inside of we have some XAW inside of not only TFSAs, but one margin account. But the majority of those ETFs are inside of our RRSPs, and those are for growth, long-term growth. So XAW is a global ETF, so ex-Canada global ETF for growth. We have ITOT inside of an RRSP that is also for growth. And we have QQQ inside of an RRSP for growth. We have dividend paying stocks inside our margin accounts, which account for just over $2,000 a month currently in dividend income. And then we also have real estate, both here in Canada and in Brazil, that generates a little bit of rental income once we pay for expenses.
Yeah.
But that's not going to cover everything for when we reach FIRE. And we really want to try and not touch the principal of any of our investments. Our goal is really to generate enough either dividend or distribution income to live off of, at least for the first 5 to 10 years. So we're going to have to really start looking at maybe a couple other options, more income-oriented ETFs, in order to help bolster that monthly income. So we're going to talk about two today that we're kind of curious about. And thanks to a lot of our viewers out there, we actually got one of these ideas from you guys. So we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about maybe some pros and cons that people may have with regards to those as well at the end.
The first ETF that I wanted to talk about you is HDIV.co. HDIV.co, as you can see on your screen, is part of the Hamilton ETFs. Hamilton is a company who provides ETF that you can trade, so you can trade this ETF here in Canada. And as you can take a look, it's a kind of a diversified fund with different asset allocations. We have exposure to energy, we have exposure to healthcare, you have exposure to the Canadian utility sector. We also have financials. So from our point of view, this is quite a diversified portfolio that it does compose by Canada and the US. That's one of the things that I find that it's important.
Yeah, but mostly Canada. It really does track or tries to stick pretty close to the TSX 60.
But one of the things that we are also considering, this is the kind of study, this is the kind of research that you have to think about it. It's a new ETF, it's been around for just over 1 year. And I do remember that we record this video in October 2022. They started back in June or July of 2021, right? Yeah. So another thing that you have to consider, it does pay monthly. Every month we will be receiving the distributions from Hamilton, from HDIV, if we decided to get this ETF.
Yeah. And that's really what's drawing us to these particular funds. There's a lot of funds out there, but for our purposes, we're really looking to boost that monthly income to supplement the dividend income that we're receiving. So we're starting to look at some of these funds in order to kind of offset any shortfall that might be there with the dividends.
Yeah, so this is the first one. What is the second ETF that we are talking about?
Yeah, so the second one is actually HYLD. So similar to QYLD that we held before, but this one is HYLD. It's also by Hamilton. And this particular fund tracks more the S&P 500. So this is a US-based or focused fund and tracking the US S&P 500 companies. So because it's doing that, you actually get even more diversification. So this particular fund has healthcare, consumer discretionary within it, some financials, but not a lot, not compared to Canada, communications, industrials, consumer staples, energy, utilities, real estate, materials, has a lot of stuff contained within this particular fund. Both of these funds are made up of other groups of ETFs, and funny enough, HYLD actually includes QYLD.
Yeah.
So this is another one that pays monthly. We're looking at, again, trying to bolster that income each month. And so we think that diversifying not only in Canada, but the US for monthly income purposes is a good idea. We have global diversification with XAW. And maybe down the road, we might look at another fund that may provide monthly income for global diversification. But right now, these two are the ones that we're kind of considering.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly because the stuff that we pulled up is not current as of today's date, but HDIV is yielding right around 10% right now, and HYLD is right around 14% yield. One other thing just to take note of is that both of these funds are leveraged. They do use 25% leverage within their funds. It's not a huge amount of leverage. It is leverage, so we have to be cognizant of that. But the leverage is there for a purpose, and we can always get into that into another video if you're really that interested about why they're using leverage in these funds. But just to be aware that these two particular ETFs are leveraged to a certain extent.
So to summarize, we wanted to either invest on HDIV. No, HDIV. Yeah. It sometimes kind of confusing. I always think HG is the Home Depot, so it's another stock, but forget about Home Depot. It's either HDIV or HYLT.
Yeah,
right?
Or both.
Both. Having said that, there is always, say, the pros and cons. And that's what we wanted to discuss with you today. Is what are some of the pros and some of the cons, and what do you think about it? What is the first pro?
Yeah, so going right back to diversification, the first pro is really that we are going to be able to diversify our portfolio much more than it currently is. If we were to look at our stock portfolio right now, we have almost 50% of our money in Canadian financial stocks, which is a massive amount of money to have in any one sector. So we have about 50% in financials, 15.4% in utilities, 13% in telecoms, and 9% energy. And then it just really fizzles out. There's nothing else outside those four sectors. So we really want to diversify this portfolio as much as we can. Yes, we have the broad market ETFs, but we really need a little bit more, I think, than just that.
Another pro that we see is the monthly dividend income. As Christine mentioned before, I'm going to link up here a dividend playlist. Every month we share with you how much we have received from the previous month. So, yeah, it makes sense. You're in October. We just released September's number. But when we did our research, we are planning to withdraw or planning to spend around $4,000 per month once we reach FI. So there are $2,000 that we still don't have, and you might be thinking, how are you going to be able to, to retire or to stop working in 2024 if you are not going to win the lottery? And I can say this because we don't play. That's when it comes handy, those ETFs, because the fact that we are looking for more income, we feel like they fit what we're looking for in our portfolio.
Yeah.
Right?
We're still going to keep adding to the dividend income.
That's true.
It's just that I think in the next year and 5 months-ish, I don't think we're going to be able to invest back into the portfolio the amount that we're going to need in order to achieve that $4,000 a month. So we're starting to come up with some different ideas of how we can make that happen. And this is one of them.
Yeah.
But along with the pros come a few cons. And this was something that we thought of back when we sold QILD. And that's one of the main reasons why we kind of sold it at the time, is that in a lot of cases, you're not going to see the capital appreciation necessarily that you would on an individual stock. Yeah, we're going to get perhaps the monthly income from these particular investments, but you're not going to see your capital appreciate or grow as much as you would hopefully like to, right? We all want to see that money grow. But our plan, if we get these, is to sort of create our own appreciation of capital. So for the next year and a bit, we're obviously not going to be spending any of this money. So anything we do is receive from now until we retire, we're going to be reinvesting back into these particular funds, which will only increase our monthly income. And then once we do reach FIRE and we are living off of all of our distributions and dividends, whatever we don't spend, we're going to reinvest back in as well. So we're still going to be growing the capital in each one of these or putting that extra capital into dividends. So we're going to see growth in our money. It just might not be in the traditional sense that we're used to. And then the second con that we have is that they do use leverage. So if this is something that you're not really comfortable with, we certainly learned our lesson in trying to use leverage on our own. We think that this is a particular way that we can do it in a safer manner. But it is definitely something to consider. Both of these funds do use about 25% leverage. Something you have to be aware of and something that you have to decide if it's for you or not.
Yeah. And it might come to the question, is leverage a good thing or a bad thing? We can basically, let's say, pay an MER of 0.65%, if I'm not mistaken, from HGIV, and let the pros kind of do their work, and we kind of basically wait until the end of the month once the distribution is deposited into our account, right? So it might be a pro from one end, but it might be a con from another end.
Yeah, and that's a good point, actually. We didn't actually mention the MERs on these two funds. They are a bit higher than your traditional ETF, but that's because they're actively managed. And really, when you think about it, 0.65% isn't a huge cost for somebody to be earning you 10 to 14% return on that money.
And you might say, oh, why don't we invest in options? We already learned our lesson, not using options and using swing trades. Take a look on the previous video and you can understand why that's not for us.
Yeah, our own margin days are
over.
So this is our new safer way of utilizing a little bit of margin in order to start building up that monthly income.
Yeah. So let's summarize our situation right now. We do have investments on ETFs, broader market ETFs. We also have investments on real estate and dividends. So this is covered. What we are trying to do is bridge this gap of around $2,000 per month. And in our situation, we are not far away from reaching FI. We thought of using either HGIV or HYLD to bring us a little bit closer to our number. And the fact that we are not far away from that 2024 allows us to think more about income. And you may think, Oh, but what about the growth? We already kind of have that covered with the other investments that we have. We are not going to get rid of the dividends that we have. We are not going to get rid or sell any of the other positions that we have, either on, let's say, ITOT or the QQQ. So it's more US exposure. But what else can we do? So that's why we thought that using those new ETFs is going to help us to do. But we have a few questions for you, and this is where we need your support.
So what do you guys think? Do you think that these two potential ETFs are good additions to our strategy? Would you add them, or do you currently have them in your own portfolios? Or do you have suggestions for other ones that might fit better, might cover different sectors? Let us know down in the comments.
Yeah. We hope that you are well. We hope that you are safe, and we'll see you on our next video.
Take care.
Bye. That using those new ETFs is going to help us to do. But we have a few questions for you, and this is where we need your support.
What are your questions?
I don't know.
I said my question and you wanted to do it again.
Good. I hope that this is still recording.
I say that every time.
Yeah.
A sense that we're used to.
Yeah.
And then the second con that we have